Whatever. Maggie, I don't think this is working. It's a bit too much makeup for me and Vinnet. Um, but anyway, I thought that I would answer your question. Um, you asked how I could go from high risk action and espionage to enduring the banality of high school and mundane world growing up. Well, everyone thinks that going on adventures is some grand thing. At least, that's what it looks like in books and movies. Luke Skywalker goes to Tatooine, or leaves Tatooine for the rebellion and never thinks back on Uncle Owen or Aunt Beru. Kirk leaves Earth and never looks back. Paul Atreides, never mind. But it wasn't like that for me. And then again, I was kidnapped. I wasn't supposed to be on an adventure. It took a lot of nightmares and painful silences before I started to miss the excitement and the simplicity. More accurately, Vinette started missing both being an adult and an insurgent more than she was happy about being on Earth. Don't get me wrong, I was happy to be home. That's what I wanted. I felt like I was going to get my life back until I was back in my room. My parents closed the door and suddenly everything was just as it had been when they came. Late afternoon sunlight slanted through my blinds, across the desk and past the closet door still open from when they'd found my hiding spot. Stuffed animals had spilled out with me and been kicked across the room in the struggle. Shaking, I listened for footsteps, and even though I heard my parents and the dog, I was sure I'd hear Benedette's raiding party too, except I wasn't alone. Vinette was there with me, following my thoughts. She broke into the downward spiral. I'm sorry the Chemtoet vandalized your home with your own memories. Other fragments of thought came with that one. That I didn't deserve it, that no one did, that this had to stop. Surely we can go somewhere you're more comfortable. This is my room. Then let's reclaim it, she said. She started picturing all the things reminding me of what happened. The mess, the open door, the light. I couldn't move and I couldn't stop shaking. It could all happen again. Black Book is monitoring Kashan activities more actively now. They will intercept future raids faster. But it'd been hours before the Air Force showed up. Faster didn't mean the raids wouldn't take people, wouldn't take me. Again. You have me. If it ever happened again, we would fight and win. What more could I have done? Vinette pictured 3 different techniques for fighting free, plus how easy it would be for her to take control of the Kashan I'd been left alone in. They'd left me alone in the getaway vehicle. All I'd had to do was log in, undock, and fly home. It was a handful of button presses. Vinette and I had done exactly that later on, which made Benedette's raiding party kind of inept. Which was great, except they'd still bested me. You've learned and changed since then, Vinette insisted. May I help with your room? Yeah. As she took control, I thought about it. She was right. I'd never be the same. With control of my body, she picked up the stuffed animals and settled them back in their pile on the floor of the closet. She closed the door reverently, as if locking up both the good and bad memories for a later time when I could untangle them. The next time you encounter agents acting for the Chemtoet, you'll be equipped to defend both yourself and others, as you defended Maggie on Sace. I had talked Vinette out of killing her, but if you hadn't killed her, we'd still be there, working on taking out the whole Chemtoet Empire. That started to sink in. We'd been right there, among the queens and kings. Vinette was supposed to get one alone and replace them with a Jertuet. One by one, the leaders of the Chemtoet Empire would secretly become Jertuet, until the Geritwet had control of everything. It could have worked if I hadn't gotten Vinnet to save Maggie. Vinnet angled my blinds backwards and turned on every light in the room, making it look more like it did when I worked on homework in the evenings. Then she lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling. She frowned, and a glimmer of a critical thought flitted by, too abstract for me to understand. She closed her eyes, focusing. Saving Maggie was the right thing to do. Was a right thing to do. But not the right thing. She folded her hands on her stomach. Every decision refines who we are. Choosing Maggie was a decision of compassion for an individual, and killing her would have ended the war and saved a bunch of other lives. Maybe. She took a slow, deep breath and blew it out. Anjanette Spares had already recognized that I wasn't her. Even without Maggie, we may not have survived long enough to strengthen the Geritwet foothold. These situations are fraught with uncertainty. I had forgotten about the doppelganger and her suspicious glances, but not about my hands killing her. Vinnet rushed to continue. You argued for me to have compassion for an individual over the slim possibility that our mission would have succeeded. Looking up, she framed the center of the ceiling with her fingers. The first Geritwet, Muta, believed that personal contact is what changes society for the better, even more than grandiose strategies. My progenitor didn't. I'd rather be like Muta. It was going to take a lot more conversations before I understood what she was talking about, but that was the first I'd heard Vinnet describe the kind of person she wanted to be. Geritwet aren't like humans. They don't get asked what they want to be when they grow up. They're born kind of knowing what they're supposed to do, and they grow up learning how to do it. It's presumed they're going to be an insurgent like everyone else, and the queen who bore them and the queen who bore her. Vinnet got to dream on Earth. Anyway, there we were, lying on my bed, studiously ignoring the corner of the room where Benebjedet's guards had dragged me away, Vinnet framing the ceiling with my fingers. What are you doing? I asked. Deep thoughts there, I know. Sighing, she lowered her hands and started giving me back control. Tuet Decor has ceiling art. We're aquatic creatures originally. We're used to operating in 3 dimensions. Your ceiling is very plain, especially compared to your walls. It was true. Every square foot of my walls was covered in posters, letters, postcards, cutouts of packaging I liked. On impulse, I reached out to brush my fingers against the pieces closest to the head of the bed, some of them my favorites, like letters from friends back south. I had control. I tried my voice, trying to change the sound of the room too. You're staying here. Why don't you take the ceiling? She did. But she made me clear some of the wall space in exchange. Something about clutter being bad for the mind. Most of it moved straight onto the closet door. We talked like that a lot. Me aloud, her thinking back. I was home. We were safe. There wasn't anything to be afraid of, she said. Until Mom started asking who I was talking to.